You texted him. He read it. No reply. Ever been in that moment? You stare at your screen, wondering what changed. 1 minute he's all in, sweet, attentive, even saying he misses you, and the next he vanishes like you never existed. It's confusing, it's frustrating, and it hurts. But what if I told you his silence might not mean what you think it does? In this video, we're going deep into one of the most misunderstood signals in modern dating. When a man pulls away emotionally, goes cold, or starts ignoring you, right when you thought things were going well. And no, this isn't about playing games or decoding vague advice. This is real talk. Because if you're watching this, you're probably tired of second-guessing yourself. You're done wondering, did I do something wrong? Or is he just not that into me anymore? But here's the truth. Sometimes when a man loves you, really loves you, he'll start to ignore you. Not because he's losing interest, but because he's overwhelmed by how much he feels. Because vulnerability is terrifying to someone who's never learned how to hold space for it. So if you've ever asked yourself, why is he ignoring me if he cares? This video will give you the clarity you need, the answers you deserve, and the power to respond without losing yourself. Let's break it all down right now. Stay with me, because this is going to change the way you see everything. Let's talk about emotional distance. That cold, confusing space that suddenly opens up between you and someone who once made you feel safe, wanted, and even adored. One day, he's all in, texting good morning, making plans, opening up. The next, he's quieter, slower to respond, less available. Maybe he even seems annoyed or distant for no clear reason. Here's what most women do at this point. They panic, and it makes sense. You feel the change. You start replaying conversations, rereading texts, looking for clues in his tone or emojis. You wonder if you were too much, too needy, too available. And before you know it, you start shifting your behavior to try to get him back, texting more, chasing his attention, trying to fix what you don't understand. But emotional distance isn't always caused by you. In fact, it's usually rooted in something going on inside of him, not between you. And understanding why men pull away emotionally can give you a powerful edge in your love life. For many men, intimacy isn't just about connection. It's also about pressure. The deeper things get, the more they begin to feel seen. And being seen means being vulnerable. That's something a lot of men haven't been taught how to handle, especially if they grow up in an environment where expressing emotions was seen as weakness, not strength. When a man starts to genuinely care about you, it can awaken fears he didn't even know he had. Fear of not being enough, fear of losing independence, fear of rejection. Fear of messing it up. So what does he do? He distances himself, not to hurt you, but to protect himself. He might not even realize he's doing it. It can be as subtle as taking longer to reply, getting easily irritated, or suddenly becoming busy all the time. And here's the kicker. The more emotionally invested he becomes, the more likely he is to pull away, especially if he hasn't learned how to sit with discomfort or trust himself in relationships. Emotional distance is often not a reflection of how little he cares, but rather how deeply something is stirring inside him that he doesn't yet know how to handle. Now, this doesn't mean you should tolerate disrespect or inconsistency. Ignoring you for days, playing hot and cold, or making you feel anxious 24/7 is not a healthy dynamic, no matter the reason behind it. But understanding the psychology of emotional distance gives you emotional leverage. It helps you stop reacting from fear and start responding from strength. Because what he needs in those moments isn't more pressure from you. It's space, and a safe space within himself. And often, the best thing you can do when a man pulls away is not to chase, but to hold your ground, to maintain your emotional stability, to continue your life with confidence and grace, not to punish him, but to show him you're not here to complete him. You're here to connect, not to fix or force. This shift in energy can be powerful. It lets him feel the emotional gap, not because you're playing games, but because you're no longer filling in the space for him. And if he's emotionally mature enough, he'll begin to lean in again. He'll start to miss your presence, your calm, your clarity. He'll recognize the difference between losing attention and losing connection. So the next time a man begins to pull away emotionally, don't spiral. Don't assume it's the end. Instead, See it as a signal, not always a red flag, but a yellow light. Slow down, observe, honor yourself, and most importantly, don't abandon yourself trying to hold on to someone who isn't ready to hold you fully. There is strength in your stillness, and that's what often brings clarity to both of you. Silence can be deafening, especially when it comes from someone you care about. You go from talking every day, sharing laughs, making plans, to hearing nothing. No explanation, no warning, just distance. And your mind instantly jumps to the worst conclusion. He's losing interest. But is he really? Here's what we rarely talk about. Silence doesn't always mean disinterest. Sometimes it means confusion. Sometimes it means fear. And sometimes it means he's processing something he doesn't yet know how to say out loud. See, we often expect men to be direct and clear, but the truth is, many guys were never taught to communicate emotionally. So instead of expressing what's wrong, they withdraw. Not because they've stopped caring, but because they don't know how to show they still do without feeling weak or exposed. And yet, when you're on the receiving end of that silence, it feels personal. You start to fill in the blanks with painful stories. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe he found someone else. That mental spiral is exhausting. And most of the time, it's not based on facts, it's based on fear. Here's the thing. When a man goes quiet, your first instinct is to decode the silence. But the better move, pause and ask, what was happening before the silence? Was he opening up more than usual? Was your connection growing deeper? Because if that's the case, his silence might not be about pulling away. It might be a reflex, an emotional shield he's putting up to regain control of feelings that are starting to overwhelm him. It sounds backwards, right? That caring more could make someone act more distant. But for emotionally guarded men, the closer they get, the scarier it becomes. Love demands vulnerability. And for someone who's used to being self-contained, who's maybe been hurt before or taught to hide emotions, silence becomes their defense. Not because he doesn't want to feel, but because he doesn't want to feel out of control. Now, does that mean every man who goes quiet is secretly in love and just afraid? No, let's be real. Some guys lose interest and don't have the guts to tell you. Some take the easy way out and ghost. And yes, silence can absolutely be a red flag when paired with other signs, like lack of effort, disrespect, or a clear change in energy. But that's exactly why it's important to pay attention to patterns, not just panic over a moment of quiet. Ask yourself, has he pulled away before and come back emotionally present? Does his silence feel temporary or like a steady fade? Is he still showing up in small but meaningful ways, even if he's quieter than usual? Silence only becomes your enemy when you give it all your power, when you let it define your worth, when you respond with fear instead of grace. Here's what confident women do differently. They don't chase clarity from someone who's unclear. They don't beg for attention from someone who's retreating. They step back too, not as a punishment, but as a boundary. They understand that silence is information, not the whole story, but a page. And instead of rewriting the ending in their heads, they wait to see what the next chapter actually brings. Because someone who's truly losing interest will show it, not just in words, but in effort, consistency, and emotional presence. And someone who's simply overwhelmed or emotionally blocked, they'll come back if they're ready, if they're capable, if they see you're not going to chase what they're not offering. So does silence mean he's losing interest? Maybe. But maybe it just means he's struggling with the intensity of how much he actually feels. And now it's up to him to face it. And your job isn't to fix it. It's to stay rooted in your own clarity. It sounds completely backward, doesn't it? That someone could love you and still ignore you. That affection could look like distance. That care could show up as coldness. It feels wrong, it feels hurtful, but it's something that happens more often than we realize. And to understand it, we have to dive into how love triggers fear. Especially for emotionally guarded men. When a man starts falling for you, it doesn't just spark attraction. It activates something much deeper, emotional exposure. Suddenly, he's not in control of everything. His feelings for you are growing, and with that comes a risk. The risk of rejection, vulnerability, losing himself, or getting hurt again. For someone who's not emotionally fluent or who's been burned before, those risks can feel unbearable. So what does he do? He shuts down. He creates space. He pulls away, not because he stopped loving you, but because he doesn't know how to stay present with the intensity of what he feels. This is where it gets confusing, because his behavior doesn't match the connection you've built. He's told you he cares. You've felt the chemistry, the safety, the way he lights up around you, and then out of nowhere, he becomes distant, less available, quieter. It makes you question everything. But in his mind, he's not hurting you. He's protecting himself from a feeling he doesn't know how to manage. This pattern is especially common with men who have avoidant attachment styles. For them, love triggers a fear of being engulfed or losing their independence. So even when they feel deeply, or especially when they do, they react by pulling back. And ironically, the more they care, the more likely they are to ignore. Not because they want to push you away, but because closeness makes them feel out of control. It's emotional survival. It's not about you. It's about their inability to sit with emotional discomfort. Now, this doesn't mean that every man who ignores you loves you. Let's be clear. Real love doesn't thrive on mixed signals. But in some cases, a man will ignore you precisely because you've touched a part of him he wasn't ready to reveal. You saw him, you connected with his softness, and that terrified him more than anything else. So he withdraws. Thinking space will help him feel safe again. The tragedy is that most women blame themselves when this happens. They think, I came on too strong, or maybe I scared him away. But no, what you did was create a moment of emotional truth. And some men aren't prepared to live in that truth. Not yet. So what should you do when his ignoring feels more like fear than rejection? You don't chase, you don't shrink, you don't make excuses for the behavior. Instead, you stand still in your own self-worth. You allow the space to speak louder than your anxiety. Because if what he feels is real, and if he's capable of growth, he'll come back with clarity, not confusion. Love that's healthy may sometimes need breathing room, but it will always return with presence. Ignoring you won't be his permanent answer, just a temporary shield he no longer needs when he's ready to love you without fear. When ignoring equals loving, it's not romantic, it's unresolved. It's emotional weight he hasn't learned to carry. And it's never your job to carry it for him. Your job is to recognize the difference between love that hides and love that shows up. And choose the one that aligns with the peace you deserve. Because love isn't just about how someone feels about you. It's about how they handle those feelings when they show up. When a man withdraws, whether slowly or suddenly, it stirs up one of the most uncomfortable feelings a woman can experience: uncertainty. And that uncertainty often leads to overreaction, not because she's dramatic or needy, but because human beings are wired to seek connection, especially when it starts to feel like it's slipping away. But here's the hard truth. It's not just that he's withdrawing that creates damage. It's how you respond to his withdrawal that can either protect your peace or sabotage your power. And there are some common mistakes women make in this emotional moment that end up doing more harm than good. The first mistake: over-pursuing. This usually looks like chasing validation, double texting, asking if everything's okay, trying to fix the vibe. You might think you're being caring or communicative, but when someone is intentionally pulling back, coming in closer only adds pressure. It often makes you appear anxious, and worse, it teaches him that he can create emotional distance, and you'll be the one to close the gap every time. The second mistake: blaming yourself. You start overanalyzing every detail. Did I say the wrong thing? Was I too available, too affectionate? You turn his shift into a mirror, trying to find your flaws. But a man withdrawing is often about his internal state, not your behavior. And self-blame creates an exhausting emotional loop where you feel responsible for managing both your emotions and his. Third, making assumptions. Instead of observing his actions over time, you instantly jump to worst-case scenarios. You tell yourself he's losing interest, talking to someone else, or preparing to ghost you. The reality might be way more neutral. He might just be stressed, overwhelmed, or emotionally flooded. But when you react based on assumption, you make choices that come from fear, not facts. Next, trying to earn his attention back. This one's sneaky. You start posting subtle look at me stories. You dress a little differently. You drop hints, maybe even try to trigger jealousy. It's all a way to prove your worth, to remind him what he's pulling away from. But here's the thing. A connection that's real doesn't need convincing. And if he's pulling away, performative behavior doesn't pull him closer. It makes him respect you less. Another mistake: abandoning your own life. You stop doing what makes you feel alive because you're too busy monitoring his signals. You cancel plans because you're waiting for him to text. You scroll through his socials instead of showing up for yourself. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start shrinking your world to fit the space he's left behind. But here's what women who protect their self-worth do differently. They notice the withdrawal, but they don't absorb it. They allow the silence, but they don't fill it. They keep moving, not as a strategy to make him chase, but because they know they are the center of their own lives, not a side character in someone else's emotional spiral. It's not your job to prove you're worth staying for. It's your job to stay true to yourself when someone else becomes inconsistent. The most powerful response when he pulls away is to do nothing dramatic. Stay grounded. Breathe through the discomfort. Observe his behavior without letting it control yours. Because if he's meant to be in your life, your stillness will speak louder than any chase. And if he's not, you'll know without ever having to lose yourself trying to make him stay. Withdrawals happen, but mistakes don't have to. You get to choose your response. And that response can redefine the dynamic or set you free from it completely. When a man starts to pull away, your instinct may scream at you to do something, say something, fix something. Anxiety kicks in hard. You feel like you're losing your grip on the relationship, and the fear of rejection starts whispering lies. You're not enough. He's over you. Say something now or he'll disappear. But here's the truth. How you respond in those fragile moments defines the emotional tone of the relationship far more than you think. And the women who hold their ground, not with ego, but with calm self-assurance, create a dynamic where their value is felt, not begged for. Confidence, not anxiety, is what creates lasting attraction. So how do you respond with confidence when every cell in your body wants to panic? First, pause before reacting. Give yourself a moment to breathe. Don't send that "what's wrong" message 5 minutes after he pulls back. Don't post something out of character hoping he notices. Let the space exist. Why? Because confident energy isn't reactive. It's rooted. It doesn't chase clarity from confusion. It waits to observe. Next, shift the focus back to yourself. When anxiety takes over, your mind becomes hyper-focused on him. What he's thinking, why he's silent, what he might be feeling. That obsessive spiral makes you forget who you are. So flip the script. Ask, what do I need right now? What makes me feel grounded? Go for a walk. Write in a journal. Call a friend who reminds you of your power. Reconnecting with yourself will regulate your nervous system and help you show up from a place of emotional strength, not emotional survival. Another key? Resist the urge to over-explain or overreach. A confident woman doesn't send long paragraphs trying to convince someone to care. She doesn't try to manage their emotions. She states her truth with clarity and leaves space for the other person to show up, or not. That space is where self-respect lives. Confidence also means being okay with not having all the answers immediately. You may not know why he's pulling away. You may not get closure right away, but instead of chasing explanations, remind yourself, someone who is emotionally available will communicate. Someone who's not will fall away when you stop filling the silence. And that's information you need, not something to fear. Most importantly, confidence is built by how you treat yourself when someone else becomes inconsistent. Do you stop eating, sleeping, or enjoying your life? Or do you lean into the things that light you up? When you show yourself that your world doesn't collapse based on someone else's presence or absence, you become magnetic. Because nothing is more powerful than someone who can hold space for uncertainty without losing themselves in it. And remember, confidence doesn't mean being cold or detached. It means being emotionally steady, being clear on your worth, knowing that your love is valuable and not to be handed out to someone who's unsure. Responding with confidence means you don't need to play games. You simply refuse to abandon yourself. So when he pulls back, you don't chase, you don't beg, you don't shrink. You sit with the discomfort. You let time reveal truth. You continue showing up for you. Because real confidence doesn't come from controlling outcomes. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. You'll still rise. And the right person won't make you question that. Let's be real. When a man starts pulling away, most women's first instinct is to lean in harder, to fix, to explain, to prove their worth. But here's the twist. The moment you start chasing is the moment you start losing the energy that made him drawn to you in the first place. The more you try to hold on, the faster he slips away. So how do you reverse the dynamic? Without games, without manipulation, and actually make him start chasing you. It begins with energy. Men are instinctively drawn to what feels slightly out of reach, not in a manipulative way, but in a magnetic way. When your energy shifts from I need him to choose me to I choose myself first, everything changes. He feels that shift. He notices it. It's subtle but powerful, like gravity pulling him back towards you. But let's break this down. The first key to flipping the script is emotional detachment from the outcome. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop tying your sense of peace to whether or not he texts, calls, or gives you attention. You become neutral. And that neutrality is powerful. It says, I want you, but I don't need you to feel complete. That energy invites pursuit. Neediness repels it. Independence draws. Second, you stop trying to explain your value and start living it out loud. You get back to the version of you who lights up without anyone's validation. You focus on your passions, your goals, your glow. You don't use this as a tactic. You use it as a return to self. Because a man chasing you isn't about proving a point. It's about creating a life so full and magnetic that he wants to be part of it. The third shift, silence becomes your strength. You don't punish him by ignoring him, but you don't fill the gap either. If he pulls away, you match energy, not with coldness, but with self-respect. You don't chase clarity where there's confusion. You hold your position and let him feel the absence of your presence. And trust me, if there was a real connection, he'll feel it. Men often realize what they had only after it stops reaching for them. In the end, if you are not reaching, your happiness in life might just reach you there. Fourth, and this is big, you stop rewarding inconsistency. If he disappears and then comes back casually like nothing happened, and you welcome him instantly, you're teaching him that your standards bend, that you'll settle for crumbs. But if instead you slow down the pace, make him earn back your energy, and communicate your expectations with calm clarity, you reset the dynamic. You show him your time is valuable, your attention is earned, and you don't hand your loyalty to someone who treats you like a placeholder. And finally, you embody feminine magnetism. That means staying soft, not desperate. Being open, but not over-applying. Letting things flow instead of forcing them. It means holding your head high, knowing that the right man will rise to meet you, not make you lower yourself to be chosen. Reversing the dynamic isn't about turning the tables just to feel powerful. It's about returning to the core of your power and watching who rises to meet it. When you stop chasing, you give him room to step up. When you stay grounded, he feels the challenge. When you move in your light, he notices what he's at risk of losing. And the best part? You're not doing it for him. You're doing it for you. And in that energy, he can't help but chase what he once thought he could take for granted. At the end of the day, love isn't just about how much someone says they care or how often they show up. It's about how you feel in the relationship. And what you deserve is simple, yet so many settle for less. You deserve to feel safe, valued, and cherished, without having to guess, question, or chase. Too often, we get caught in cycles of confusion because we believe love means sacrifice and uncertainty. But real love feels like peace. It feels like respect. It feels like being seen for exactly who you are, not a version someone hopes you'll become. You deserve to be with someone who chooses you consistently, not just when it's convenient. Someone who matches your energy, meets your vulnerability with care, and holds space for your growth alongside their own. You deserve love that makes you feel like a priority, not an option. And if you're watching this and thinking, but what if I haven't found that yet? That's okay. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. When you fully embrace your worth, when you refuse to settle for less than what you deserve, you radiate an energy that naturally attracts the right people. You build boundaries that protect your peace instead of draining it. Remember, love is not a game to be won or a puzzle to solve. It's a partnership where both people choose each other with clarity and intention. When someone truly loves you, they don't leave you guessing if they care. They don't pull away in silence or ignore your worth. They show up fully, honestly, and vulnerably. So stand tall in your worth. Don't shrink to keep someone close. Don't dim your light to avoid their shadows. The love you deserve will lift you up, not leave you wondering if you're enough. You are enough. You are worthy. And the love you've been waiting for isn't just a dream. It's waiting for you to believe it's possible. Hold on to that truth. Let it guide your heart.